Hello guys, welcome into this tutorial. We are going to be making these two leg warmers today. So we're going to be making this longer leg warmer, and this is going to have stripes and little ruffles here on the stripes. I'm going to show you how to make this long one. And I'm also going to show you how to make this cute little red and white checkered one. These could be made in any color you wish. So let's get going. We're going to be making this gorgeous striped Christmas leg warmer today. You can always use this pattern with any color you want, so it does not have to be just for Christmas. You could make this in goth colors, bright colors, pastel colors. I'm showing you today how to do this Christmas leg warmer in this beautiful red, green, and white, all from Big Twist. I am using a Big Twist red, a Big Twist white, and a Big Twist green. The green is forest green, it's a white, and then the red that I'm using is varsity red. These are all regular 4-weight acrylic yarn. As always, you could use any yarn that you would like. I have these in a little plastic container, and I have the ends coming out of this hole. So I am hoping that this is going to help me to keep my yarn not tangling. So I'm going to pop on the screen what measurements you're going to need to take. Other supplies that you're going to need is a 6mm hook or whatever hook goes with your yarn choice. And this project, we are going to use some stitch markers. So grab those stitch markers, get some stitch markers handy. Going to need a tape measure, a darning needle, and a pair of scissors. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to start right up here with the top of this leg warmer. This leg warmer is not going to have a cuff. We're just going to start this, and then we're going to lace in this tie. Okay, we're going to start by leaving a small tail because we're going to be sewing together our first row for our top of our leg warmer. So leave yourself 5-6 inches. You're going to make a circle and push the yarn through the circle, just like this. You're going to insert your hook, and you're going to be chaining to your width measurement. I am going to be chaining 46 for this tutorial. So keep making your chains until you reach your width measurement. Okay, so I have chained 46. You might have a different number depending on your width that you need to go underneath your knee. And now we're going to be making a double crochet into the third loop from the hook. So you count the loops by V's. So you count 1, 2, 3 V's, and that's where we're going in with our first double crochet. And those skipped stitches are going to count as our first double crochet. So continue making 1 double crochet into every single stitch, going across. And I will meet you at the end of the row. Okay, I'm just about at the end of my row. You should be approaching the end of your row. So we have been doing 1 double crochet into every stitch across the row. All right, here's our last V. Right here is our last stitch. So we're putting a double crochet right in there. Grab your other end, make sure it's not twisted. And we're going to be putting a slip stitch. So insert your hook right at the top of that very first double crochet. Loop your yarn and pull through all the loops. This will connect the top of your leg warmer. And you want to put this on and make sure that this is comfortable for you. And then what we can do is use our darning needle to take that tail. And you're just going to want to weave it in a couple stitches just to connect it, and you can secure it more later, but that's going to connect our top of our leg warmer. Okay, so on this next row, we're going to chain 2 and we're going to turn. We're going to place 1 double crochet right into that same exact spot where we just made that double crochet from. right in that first stitch. So you should have 2 double crochets coming out of that very first stitch. And the very first chain that we did, that is our turning chain, and that is not counting as a stitch. So now we're going to be placing 1 double crochet into every stitch. And I am still using red, but again, you could use any color combination that you wanted to. So continue placing 1 double crochet into every stitch, and I will meet you at the end of the row. We are continuing to make double crochets all along this row, 1 in every stitch. And make sure you're counting your stitches, that way you can make sure you're not adding any. Okay, so we just finished our last stitch. We're not going to put any stitch into this stitch right here because this is where our first stitches are coming out. All right, so we're going to slip stitch to the very first double crochet that we made in this row, not the turning chain. Insert your hook and loop through and pull through. So this is what it should look like at the end of the row. Okay, we're going to make 1 more row of red. So on the top, we're going to have 3 rows of red so that we can put our pull tie in the center and it'll look even. Again, if you're using 1 solid color or variegated yarn, it does not matter. This is only for color changes. So we're going to do 1 more row. So chain up 2, that's the turning chain. It does not count. We're going to turn our work. We're going to make 1 double crochet right down in that same stitch. Okay, that's our first stitch. And make sure you're counting to make sure you have the right count. And then we're going to place 1 double crochet into each stitch of the row. So continue placing 1 double crochet into every single stitch, and I will meet you at the end of the row. Okay, so this is where I'm going to connect. We're going to be changing yarn, or I'm going to be changing colors. If you're not changing colors, then just ignore this step of changing colors. Okay, so we're going to insert our hook up here in the first double crochet of the row. It's very easy to find. It's right above that chain 2. And you're going to take your new color, if you're changing colors, you're going to place it right behind, and you're going to pull it through. So hook it with your hook and pull through. And you're going to pull the back just to tighten everything up of your 2 colors. And then you're going to take your old color and just loop it around your new color in the back, just like that, so you can carry it up. Or if you don't like to carry your colors, then you can just cut it. So we're going to just tighten up our yarns a little bit, our ends, so they're not loose behind there. We're going to chain 2, that's our turning chain. We're going to turn our work and just make sure everything is nice and tight. What you can do is just make a little knot connecting this one to your red color, just so it doesn't come loose. Your red is still attached at this point if you're carrying colors. And we're always going to be hiding our color changes in the back and carrying in the back of our work. So we have chained 2 with our white color, and we're going to turn our work, and we're going to place a double crochet right into that very first stitch. So just insert your hook there. We have tightened everything up, so it might be a little tight. That's our first stitch of the row. Our turning chain does not count, and we're going to place 1 double crochet into every stitch in this row. There's no increases yet. And this is on the inside of our work. So continue to place 1 double crochet into every stitch of the row, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, we're at the end of the row. Here's my last stitch. Okay, and again, this stitch we're not adding to because this is where our first stitches are coming out of. If you're ever confused, just count your stitches. And we're going to connect here by slipping our hook right underneath that very first double crochet of the row, hooking your yarn and pulling through, so we're joining with a slip stitch. This is on the wrong side of the work. We're going to chain 2. That is our turning chain. It does not count as a stitch. We're going to turn our work just like that, and we're going to place 1 double crochet right into that very first stitch, and then we're placing 1 double crochet into every stitch of the row. There are no increases so far, so you should still have the same stitch count. So continue placing 1 double crochet into every stitch, and I will meet you at the end of the row. Okay, so we're continuing placing 1 double crochet into every single stitch. Okay, here's my last stitch right here. All right, so we are doing, from now on, we're doing 2 rows of every single color. So this is where we're going to do another color change. Back to red, if that's what you're doing. This is the right side of our work. We're always going to do our color changes on the good side of our work. So here's our turning chain. Here's our first double crochet of the row. We're inserting right at the top of our very first double crochet, not the turning chain. Okay, and we're going to get our red yarn. Now our red yarn is still attached. It's right in the back of our work. So you're not going to want to pull it up too much because that will pull up your work. So just make sure it's at a nice tension, and you're going to pull it through. Tighten it a little bit. Now we're going to twist our white yarn right over it so it carries, and then we're going to, with our red yarn, see I just folded the old color right over the red that we're going to use, right in back, and just tighten up your yarn a little bit, and then we're going to chain up with our red, chain 2. So this is what the back of your work should look like, and make sure it's not too tight that it's pulling. So you want it a very nice tension, not too loose and not too tight. Okay, so we have chained up 2 with our red color, and we're just going to drop the white, and it's just going to hang behind. All right, so we have chain 2, that's our turning chain, it does not count. We're going to turn our work. We're at the wrong side of our work now, and we're going to be placing 1 double crochet right into that same stitch, because our first turning chain does not count. Our first chain 2 that we did was our turning chain, that does not count. Okay, so now we're going to be placing 1 double crochet into every single stitch. We have not increased, so we should have the same stitch count going all the way across. So continue making double crochets in every single stitch, and I will meet you at the end of the row. Okay, so we're continuing to put double crochets. Okay, here's my last stitch right there. We're going to connect at the top of the very first double crochet of the row, not the turning chain. So you'll see your turning chain here, chain 2. We're not going into there, but see how this first double crochet stitch just sticks right out right there, very first one. So you go right underneath there, grab your yarn and pull through all the loops. That's going to connect that row. We're going to chain 2, that's our turning chain. We're going to turn our work. We're going to place a double crochet right into that same stitch. That's our first stitch of the row. And this is going to be our second row of red. Again, we're doing 2 rows of every color. Now we're going to place 1 double crochet into every single stitch of the row. Okay, so this is my last stitch of the row right there, and we're going to do a color change. You should be on the right side of your work. So we're going to do a color change. So insert your hook at the very top of the very first double crochet of the row. We're going to cross over our old color underneath our new color and grab our white to come through. Pull everything to sort of tighten up a little bit, but not too tight. We're just carrying that other color here in the back. So we're dropping our red and we're using our white. Again, if this is too tricky for you, you can just cut your yarn if that's easier for you. So just tighten everything up, but not too tight. All right, we're going to chain 2 with our white. This is how it should look like. That turning chain does not count. We're going to turn our work. Now we're back on the wrong side of our work with our white yarn. And this is the first row we're going to do an increase. So we did our chain row and then we did 3 rows of red, 2 rows of white, 2 rows of red. And now we're going to do our first increase row. So we have chain 2 and turn our work. We're going to place a double crochet right there in the same stitch. That is going to count as our first stitch of the row. So this is where you're going to use some math. On this round, we're going to be doing increases. Okay, so we're going to place 2 double crochets right into the very next stitch. That's our first increase. So just place 2 double crochets right into that very next stitch. So what we have here, we had our chain 2 turning chain that did not count. We had our first stitch of the row. And then we're placing our 2 double crochets in the next stitch. That's our increase. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your stitch count that you have been doing and you're going to divide it by 3. And whatever that first number is, take that first number and that's what you're going to make those stitches, and then you're going to place a stitch marker. Then you're going to make that number of stitches again and then place another stitch marker. So roughly we're adding 2 extra double crochets in the every third, so we have it even, and that's all we're going to worry about. So we've already done 1 increase right here. So my number is 14, so I'm going to double crochet 14 more stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, and then I'm going to place 2 double crochets in the very next stitch. Okay, so we had 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets back here. That's our first increase. And I had 14 stitches in between. That's roughly a third of my stitch count. And then I'm placing 2 double crochets in that very next stitch. And we can put a stitch marker here so it's easily visible. Okay, so I'm going to count another 14 double crochets. Okay, here is number 14. I'm just going to double check. Okay, 1, 2, 14. Okay, so I've made 14 additional double crochets. In the next stitch, I'm going to place 2 double crochets, and I'm going to pop a stitch marker. Okay, so we've got 1 stitch marker here and 1 stitch marker here. And now we're just going to double crochet as normal to the end of the row. So continue making your stitches and I will meet you at the end of the row. Okay, so I'm approaching the end of the row. And again, we're on the inside of our work. Whenever you see your carries of your yarn, if you're changing colors, you're on the inside. Okay, this was our first stitch of the row, first stitch of the row. So I'm not going to go in here. So what I'm going to do is insert my hook into the very first double crochet, not the turning chain. Grab your yarn and pull through with a slip stitch to join. Okay, so that was one of our rows of white. And then we are going to chain 2 and we're going to turn our work. We're not going to increase on this row. We're going to do this next row with no increase. So again, we're going to, because this turning chain did not count, we're going to place 1 stitch right in that very first stitch. That's going to count as number 1, first stitch of our row. So now we're placing 1 double crochet into every stitch of the row. So continue placing your double crochets in every single stitch, and I will meet you at the end of the row. Okay, so I'm approaching the end of the row and we have been placing our double crochets into every stitch. Okay, that's my last stitch, or this is where my first stitches are coming out, so this is my last stitch right here. Okay, so again, as normal, we are going to insert our hook right here at the top of our very first double crochet, not the turning chain. And we are changing back to red. So we're going to pull our white over to the side, right on top of our red, and we're going to pull up our red and pull our red through that loop. We're going to tighten our white a little bit. So now we are going to drop our white and we're going to be working with our red. We're going to chain 2. We're going to turn our work to the wrong side of our work. And tighten your white if you need to. So we're on the wrong side of our work. Okay, so once we have turned our work, this turning chain does not count, so we're placing 1 double crochet right into that same stitch. That is going to be the first stitch of our row. And then we're going to place 1 double crochet in every single stitch of this row. And if you need to count your stitches just to keep the right count, you can do that. So place 1 double crochet into every stitch. Again, this is the back side of our work, and we're just carrying our colors up through. So place 1 double crochet into every single stitch of your row. And if it's easier for you to cut your yarn, you can do that. So continue placing 1 double crochet in each stitch. I will meet you at the end of the row. This is what it should look like. Okay, so we're approaching the end of the row. We're on the inside of our work. We're doing double crochets in every single stitch. There's no increases on these rows. Okay, we're going to insert our hook right here at the top of the very first double crochet of the row. We're not counting the turning chain. We're going to grab our yarn and pull it through with a slip stitch to join. This is the wrong side of the work here. We're going to chain 2 because we need to do another row of red. We're going to turn our work. So this is the right side of our work here. And that turning chain did not count as a stitch, so we're going to go right down into that very first same stitch with a double crochet. We're going to place 1 double crochet in every single stitch of the row. So this is what it should look like so far. This is the seam right here. We've got a nice beautiful seam going. So continue placing 1 double crochet into every single stitch of the row, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, we are approaching the end of the row. And there's my last stitch right there. And we're going to, like always, we're going to insert our hook right at the top of the very first double crochet of the row, not the turning chain. And we're going to drop our red and pick up our white, pull it through. So we've got our white yarn there, and you're going to chain 2 with your white yarn. So we have all of our color changing, carrying on the inside of our work here. So we've chained 2, that's our turning chain with the white, it does not count. So we're going to turn our work. This is the inside of our work. We're just going to let that red yarn carry. We're going to place 1 double crochet right here in the same stitch. This is going to be the first stitch of the row. And then we're going to place 1 double crochet into every single stitch of this row. So continue adding 1 double crochet to every stitch, and I will meet you at the end of the row. And this is what it should look like. We're on the inside of our work. Okay, so we're approaching the end of our white row here, and there's no color change on this next row, so we're going to just slip stitch right to the top of our first double crochet of the row, not the turning chain. Loop over your yarn and pull through. So we're joining with a slip stitch there. And we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. That turning chain does not count. Now we're on the right side of our work. We're going to place 1 double crochet right into that same stitch. That is the first stitch of our row. And now you're going to place 1 double crochet into every single stitch. That's what it should look like. If I turn this in, you don't really have to keep turning them in all the way. You can just flip over the front, but this is what it should look like, just to give you a visual. So continue placing 1 double crochet into every stitch of the row, and I will meet you at the end. So we're going to change our yarn to red, and we're going to start increasing again. We're going to be doing 6 rows of increase now. So this was my last stitch right here, and this is my first stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook right here at the top of the very first double crochet, not the turning chain. The turning chain is this 2 stitches here. So very first double crochet. And again, we're just going to twist our yarn and pull up our red. And you can do an extra twist there if you'd like. So we're going to have our red yarn now. We're going to just drop our white and let it hang for now. We're going to chain 2, and right now we're on the front of our work. And we're going to be doing increases now for the next 6 rows, and we're going to do them sort of all the same. So what I want you to do is find your stitch markers that you placed here. Or you can just divide your count by 3 again, but what I'd like to do is just look where my increases were. So here's 1 stitch marker here, and I can see where I placed 2 stitches right here in this row. So I'm just going to follow it up, and I'm just going to move the stitch marker up here. And I'm going to do the same for the other one. So we had another stitch marker here. So take that out, and you can just see where you had 2 stitches right here. And I'm just going to follow them up and place them here. Again, if you wanted to, you could take your row count and divide it by 3 again. I think that's going to give us right around what we're looking for. If you want it to be exact, you can, but I think that's an easy way to do it. Just move your stitch markers right up. Okay, and what we're going to do, we have our red now that we're using, and we've chained up 2, so we're going to turn our work. So we're on the wrong side of our work. Our white yarn is just going to lay there. We're not going to fuss with it. We're just going to carry it. So we have our red yarn. We're going to place 1 double crochet right in the same stitch because our turning chain did not count as a stitch. So this first double crochet is the first stitch in our row. And we're going to do an increase right here. So the next stitch, we're going to place 2 double crochets. If you need to place a stitch marker there, you can, but we're going to place 2 double crochets at the front of our row. That's 1 increase. We're going to place another increase here and another increase here. So 3 places we're going to do our increase. Now you're going to place 1 double crochet into every single stitch until you meet that stitch marker, and then you're going to place 2 double crochets where that stitch marker is. And again, you could do a stitch count if you wanted to and divide it by 3, that's fine. We're working on the inside of our work, placing 1 double crochet into every single stitch. And we're approaching our first stitch marker where we're going to increase. So here's our first stitch marker. So we're just going to place 2 double crochets right there. And we're not even going to move them up because I'm going to show you a really easy way. So just leave that there. So we placed 2 double crochets at our first stitch marker. We're going to keep going until we get to our next stitch marker. So keep doing double crochets until you meet your next stitch marker. Okay, we're approaching our next stitch marker. So we have some stitches before, and then this next stitch is going to be a stitch marker. So we're going to place 2 double crochets right here where we have our marked stitch. Okay, so we've got 2 double crochets there. And then we're just going to keep going until we are at our end of our row. So place 1 double crochet into every stitch until you get to the end of the row, and I'll meet you there. Okay, we're at the end of the row. So here's my last stitch, and we're going to connect with the very first double crochet. So insert your hook at the very top of the very first crochet, not the turning chain. Pull through with a slip stitch to join, and then you're going to chain 2 and turn your work, and we're going to increase on every single row. First, we're going to place 1 double crochet right here in that seam stitch. This is our first stitch of the row. Our first turning chain did not count, so that first double crochet is our first double crochet of the row. And now we're going to place our first increase by placing 2 double crochets in the next stitch, just like that. And then we are going to make 1 double crochet in every single stitch until we get to our mark stitches. So this is what it should look like. Okay, so keep going until you meet up with your next increase, and I'll show you what to do. I've got 1 more double crochet to make. And then here's our increase from our previous row right here. We've got 2 double crochets right there. That's where our increase was. And we're going to place 1 double crochet into the first one. And then every time we meet one of these increases on the front, our 2 increases on the front, we're going to place 2 double crochets in the second stitch. That way we don't have to constantly move our stitch marker up. The second one, we're going to place 2 double crochets right here. 1, 2. So that's our increase for this row. So if you need to move your stitch marker up, you can. What I'm going to do is every time I come to one of these increases on the front, I'm going to place 2 double crochets in the second stitch, if that makes sense. So let's keep going and I'll show you. Again, you can move your stitch marker if you want to. Okay, so we're approaching one of our front stitch markers that we placed. Here's a regular stitch right here, and there is our increase from the previous row. So on the first stitch, I'm just going to place 1, and then I'm going to do my increase in the second one. Just like that. Increase, increase. Okay, and now we are going to do 1 double crochet in every single stitch until we get to the front. We are not increasing again at this front spot when we come around on the end. Okay, we're only increasing at the very front of our row and then our 2 increases in the front of our leg warmer. We're not going to increase again here at the end of the row. All right, so keep going and I will meet you at the end of this row. Okay, so here's the end of our row. Again, we're not going to increase here at the end. We're just putting 1 stitch in each of these increases. And then we are, that's my last stitch right there. And then this is the first stitch of the row. So I'm going to connect here and we're going to change to white. So just flip around and grab the white from the back. And then we're going to chain 2. So we've got our yarn carrying back here. We're working with the white again. And those chain 2s do not count. So we're going to turn our work. We're on the back side of our work now, and we're going to place 1 double crochet right into that very first stitch. That's our first stitch of the row. And then we're going to increase. This is our first increase. So place 2 double crochets right here in that very next stitch. So we have our turning chain, which does not count our first stitch of the row, and then 2 double crochets in the same stitch. That is our increase. Okay, so what we're going to do is place 1 double crochet into every single stitch until we reach where our increases are. So one double crochet in each stitch. And then what you're going to do is watch your stitches, and when you see 2 are together, you're going to place an increase in the second one. If you want to move your stitch markers up, you can. Okay, so I'll show you where it is. So here's our increase right here. So right here, I'm going to place 1 double crochet in this stitch and 2 in this stitch. So here's our increase. So I'm placing 1 double crochet in the first stitch and then 2 in the second stitch. So that's one of our increases for this row. Okay, right here. So our increases are going to be staggered. You're going to see them here, 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 here. Okay, so that's an increase there, and then keep going until the next increase. 1 double crochet in each stitch. Okay, so here's our increase right here. So I placed 1 double crochet in the first one, and then our second increase is right here, stitch. So place 2 in that second stitch. So we had increase here, increase here, increase here. So it's just going to stagger. All right, and then now we're going to go across with a double crochet into every stitch. We're not going to increase at the end. So just keep continuing to place 1 double crochet in each stitch until the end of the row, and then we're going to slip stitch and continue with another row of white. So I'll meet you at the end of the row. Okay, here's the end of the row. There is an increase here, and we're not going to place another increase right over it. We're just going to place 1 double crochet in each stitch. Okay. That's the end of the row. We're going to slip stitch to join with the white still, chain 2 and turn our work. And again, we're going to place 1 double crochet right into that same stitch. This is going to be the first stitch of our row. And then we're going to place our increase right here in the next stitch. So we're going to place 2 double crochets right here in that very first stitch, next stitch I should say. So we have our turning chain right here that does not count. We have our first stitch of the row in that same stitch. The next stitch, we have 2 double crochets in the same stitch. That is our increase. And now you're going to continue until you get to your 2 front increase stitches. And again, you're going to place 2 double crochets in the second stitch of your increases. So just keep an eye out for them. Okay, our increase is right here. And again, if it's easier for you to keep moving your stitch markers, you can. All right, so there's our increase right here from the previous row. So I put 1 stitch in the first stitch, and I'm going to place 2 stitches right here. And then continue to the other increase mark. All right, so just keep an eye out for that second increase because I can see my stitch marker here. Here it is right here. So I'm going to place 1 double crochet until I get to that second marked stitch. So here's the first one. I'm going to place 1 double crochet in the first increase stitch from the previous row, and then here's the second one right here. I'm going to place 2 right there. And then just continue to the end of the row. Again, we're not increasing at the end. We're going to just change to our red yarn. So continue, and I will meet you at the end of the row. Okay, here is the end of the row. Oops. So again, we're not increasing at the end of the row where this increases are. I'm just doing 1 stitch in each of those stitches. Okay, so that was my last stitch, and we're going to change to red. So insert your hook here at the very top, double crochet. We're going to pull over our white and pick up our red. I like to do just an extra twist there just to get it good. Okay, and we're going to chain up 2. So our carry yarn is right here in the back. We're going to turn our work. So we're going to be working on the wrong side. Here's our white that we dropped. Our red is what we're working with. Okay, so we're going to place 1 double crochet right in that same first stitch. That's our first stitch of the row. And then we're going to place our increase right in this next stitch right here. So we're going to place 2 double crochets in that next stitch. And then 1 double crochet into every single stitch of the row. And then our increases started with the red, and we're doing 6 rows of increase. So we have 2, 4, 6. So these 2 red rows are going to each have an increase, and then we will be done with the increases. So these 2 next rows were our last 2 increase rows. And if you wanted to make this leg warmer without the flare, then you would just not do any increases. You could just start at the very top, and then if you wanted to make, you know, maybe 1 or 2 increases, or you could keep it the same length, same width, and you could just not do any of these increases, or as little or as much as you want. It's up to you. So just continue. We've already placed our first increase here, and you're just going to watch for your increase, which will be right here. So 1 double crochet into every stitch until you get to your increase. All right, so here's our increase here. So I'm going to place 1 double crochet into the first stitch, and then I'm going to place 2 double crochets into the second stitch. And then just continue with 1 double crochet until you, in every single stitch, until you get to your next increase mark. And I can always feel the stitch marker, so I know it's coming up. Okay, it's right here. That's our increase. So we're just going to increase in the second stitch that has the increase in it. So here's the first one right here. This is our increase from the previous row. I'm going to place 1 double crochet in the first stitch and 2 in the second one. That's our increase. And then we're going to continue not doing any increases till we get to the end of the row and we slip stitch to connect at the end of the row. So continue with your double crochets and I will meet you at the end of the row. Okay, we're at the end of the row. Again, we're not going to do any increase here at the last increase from the previous row. We're just going to do 1 stitch in each. Okay, and we're going to slip stitch at the top of the very first double crochet. So insert your hook here, loop over and pull through. And we are going to do chain 2. Going to turn our work. Now we're on the front side and we are going to place a double crochet right into that same very first stitch. That is our first stitch of the row, and then we're going to do our increase right here. So place 2 double crochets right in that very next stitch. So we have our turning chain, our first double crochet in the same stitch, and then we have our 2 double crochets. And then we are going to place 1 double crochet in each stitch until we get to our increase. And we're going to do just like we have been. Watch out for that increase, which is right here. And then I'm going to place my increase in the second stitch. So place 1 double crochet into every stitch and watch for that increase marker. Okay, this is the stitch before, and here's our increase from our previous row. Place 1 double crochet in the first stitch, and then 2 double crochets in the second stitch, right here. Just like that. So we started our increase here, and it's just been alternating, going right up our rows. All right, so now 1 double crochet in each stitch until your next increase. Okay, and it's way over here, so we're going to keep going. Okay, here's the stitch before, here's the first stitch. So here's our increase right here from the previous row. We're doing 1 double crochet in the first stitch, 2 double crochets in the next stitch. So that's our last increase. All right, so our increases, we're going right here. Okay, and now we're just going to place 1 double crochet in every stitch until we get to the end. We're not going to increase here at the end of the row. So continue and I will meet you at the end of the row. All right, we're approaching the end of the row. Again, we're not doing an increase at the end here. So 1 double crochet in each stitch. And then here's where we are slip stitching and we're twisting our yarns. We're dropping the red and grabbing the white, pulling our white through, tightening our red back here a little bit. So here's our seam right here, okay? And we are going to chain 2 with our white and we're going to turn our work. We're going to place 1 double crochet right into that same stitch. Our red is just going to be floating And we are on the inside of our work right now. All right, so we're not making any increases. So we have finished with our increases. And so what we're going to do is just continue with 2 rows of every color until we get to the length that you would like this leg warmer. Okay, I did, let's see, I did 3 red, and then I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 more, 12 more rows of 2 of each color. So I did 3 red, and then I did 2 white, 2 red. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of the 2 of each color after the first set of 3. So keep going, and you're going to make 2 of these, obviously. So keep going until you get to the length of your leg warmer that you're happy with. Okay, so we're on the inside of the work right now. And we are just going to continue placing 1 double crochet. We're not doing any more increases unless you feel you need to. So continue on making 1 double crochet in each stitch, and we're going to alternate 2 rows in each color, and keep doing that until the length of your leg warmer, and I will meet you back at the end. Okay, I have ended my row 27, so I think I did 27 rows, and I have steamed this, so when you steam it, it'll stretch it out. Everything is going to stretch and loosen up and get really soft. So when you are doing it, decide if you're going to steam it or not. If you're going to steam it, it's going to add several inches. So I'll show you the amount. It stretched at least 2.5 inches before we're going to add. So if you steam it, it'll add a couple inches. So keep that in mind. You don't need to steam it. All right, you can take off your stitch markers. And I have just finished my red, so let me finish with my red. I'm not going to try to do a color change. I'm just going to cut it. And then we can cut our white. We're done with that. So what you can do is just sew in all of your ends at this point. And my yarn did not tangle at all. I had it in the plastic containers and it worked really well. So you're going to take your darning needle and you're going to just weave in your ends on the inside of your work. I like to go back and forth about 3 times. Okay, and that's all of our ends that we had to cover up. Okay, so let's work with the green. And again, if you steam this, it's gonna stretch. You don't have to steam it. Okay, so let's work on our green. We're going to attach our yarn on the very top of the row on the back. So here's our seam going straight down the back here. So I inserted my hook and I'm going to just attach my green yarn and just tie a knot there so it doesn't slip away on us. Okay, we're going to chain 1 and then we are going to do a single crochet between every single stitch. This is just going to get us a nice little border going all the way around. So just stick your yarn between your double crochet stitches and you're just going to do an easy single crochet all the way around in every single stitch. So I'm going right between my double crochets and I'm doing a single crochet. Again, you can slow down the video in settings, or you can skip ahead. If you don't want to do any of these trim colors, you can just skip ahead to the next step. Okay, we're going to slip stitch to join to our first single crochet that we did here. So just go underneath there or in that stitch, whatever you can do is fine. Sometimes I just go right underneath it. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make this little detailing here. So we're going to, once we've done our slip stitch, we're going to chain 4. That's going to count as a single crochet plus chain 3. And then we're going to skip this next stitch and we're going to put a single crochet into the next stitch after that. That is what it's going to look like. And then chain 3. You're going to skip a stitch and then place a single crochet in the next stitch. And you're going to do this all the way around. Chain 3, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 3, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. So just continue that all the way around. That'll give us a nice cute little border at the top of our leg warmer. Okay, so just continue doing chain 3, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, and when you get to the end, depending on how many stitches you had, just try to make it look as neat as possible. So here's my last 1, 2, 3 chains. And I'm just going to, actually I'm going to cut my work and leave a little tail. And that way it's a lot easier. So pull your work through. And then it's a lot easier just to go in and make this a nice finished look. So I'm going to go in right here at the top of that first single crochet, just like that. Just going to make that look nice and neat. And then I'm going to turn it over, and then I'm just going to knot my yarn and weave in my ends back here. For our bottom edging, we are going to do a row of half double crochets. So get your green yarn. Again, we're going to start in the back. So find your seam. Your seam is going right straight down your back. And you're going to just attach anywhere back here, just like that. I've got the top of my leg warmer facing me, and I've got the bottom of my leg warmer facing away from me. And we're going to attach our yarn the same way. So just attach with a slip stitch or a single crochet, however you like to attach your yarn. All right, so once we have attached our yarn, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to place a half double crochet in every single stitch. So loop over, insert, loop over, pull through all loops. So just continue placing 1 half double crochet in every single stitch going around. This is going to give us a nice edge. So place 1 half double crochet in every single stitch, and I will meet you at the end of the row. And this is what it should look like. Okay, so we're getting to the end of our row. We've been placing 1 half double crochet into every single stitch, and we're going to connect with a slip stitch. All right, so when you get to the very first stitch, you're going to insert your hook into that first single crochet and pull through. Okay, and now we're going to chain 4. And that's going to count as a single crochet chain 3. And then we're going to skip the first stitch, the next stitch, I mean. We're going to skip the next stitch. Then we're going to place 1 single crochet in the following stitch, chain 3, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 3, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. This is what it should look like. Chain 3, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. So just continue doing that all the way around and slip stitch at the end, and I will meet you at the end of this row. This is what it should be looking like. Okay, so we're approaching the end of the row. We've been chaining 3, skip 1, single crochet in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3. And we're just going to slip stitch in that first single crochet. So we've done our trim, and we're going to cut our yarn and pull our yarn through. So just slip stitch into that first single crochet, or make it look nice depending on your count, because you might have a totally different count than I do. So if you can fit another one in there, if you can't, just make it look as nice and tidy as you can. And then turn your work. I like to put a little knot back here and then hide all of my ends. Okay, snip off your extra yarn. Let's do our little frosting stripes here. Okay, so we're going to use the green yarn again. We're going to start in the back of our work. So look for your seam. Let's see, where's my seam? Right here. Okay, and with your green yarn again, what I like to do is have my top of my leg warmer facing me and the bottom of my leg warmer facing away. That's how I like to put my ruffles on. If you want to do it the other way and have it turned this way, you can, but I just like to do it this way. And I'm going to show you on one, and then I'm going to let you do all the rest. I'll have my leg warmer. I'll start at the back here where the seam is, and I'm going to insert my hook right before I see the white here on this row. So right above there in this stitch right here, I'm going to insert my hook there, and I'm going to come out right beside it. So it's going to be like this. This is where we're going to put our ruffles, right here on all of these. So what I do is I just attach my yarn, and you can just tie a knot and we can pull it back later. So don't worry about this tail showing. We can pull it to the back. All right, and you're on the good side of your work. Just the back side is where we're starting. So we've attached it and knotted it. I think I've attached with a single crochet. And we're going to chain 3 If you want a bigger ruffle, you can chain 4, or if you want a smaller ruffle, you can chain 2. So we've chained 3, and then we're going to put a single crochet. Again, we're going in with our yarn right, to the left of the white. So go in from the top and go down, just like that, and we're going to grab it and do a single crochet. And then we're going to chain 3. We're going to go in right from the top. So we're going right over the white, right to the left of the white stitch, and we're going right underneath that stitch right there, that red stitch. We're going to single crochet, and then chain 3, and that's what you're going to do all the way around. So go into the left of that white stitch with a single crochet, chain 3, in the next stitch with a single crochet, chain 3. We're not skipping any. Single crochet, chain 3, single crochet, chain 3. Okay, so that's what it looks like. So just continue making all of your rows of ruffles. If you want a lot of ruffles or a little ruffles, it's up to you. You can do as many or as little as you want. So just continue all the way around, and all you're going to do at the end is just slip stitch to join, fasten off, and then start your next row. And then when I do my next row, I'm going to go right at the end of the red, and I'm going to go in at the end of the red rows all the way until, I'm not going to do the last one right here. I'm just going to stop right here. So do all of your rows, and then I will meet you. I'm going to meet you at the end of this row. Okay, so this is at the end of the row. So we're just going to continue placing these ruffles in here. And then you're just going to keep doing ruffles until you meet the other end. And then depending on, sometimes I'll just cut my yarn. Yeah, I think I don't need another ruffle there. So I'll just cut my yarn just like we did at the top. And then I will pull it through and then just connect it to the other end of the ruffle just to make it look nice and neat. And then you are going to want to pull your ends inside your leg warmer to tie them off. So just make everything look nice and neat, just like that. And then you're going to turn it inside out, and you can knot it, and then you're going to weave in your ends back here. Okay, and you're going to, that's what you're going to do for every single row. And then once you steam this, it'll look a lot nicer. So this is what I did. I just added ruffles to the end of the red rows between the red and the whites, but you can do it any way you want to. So just continue adding your ruffles. And then I will show you how to do the tie. So to do the tie, I'm going to use my red yarn and my white yarn together. My green can go back there for a while. All right, and you can use whatever color combination you want. So I just grabbed my, let me make things, I have all kinds of pretty decorations here, but they didn't show. They didn't show the whole video. Okay, so I just grabbed my white and my red together, and you're just going to make a slip knot just like we did in the very beginning, and still using our number 6 hook or whatever hook you want to use. And we're just going to make a chain using both of those yarns together. So make a chain that is long enough to go and make a bow around the top of your leg warmer, depending on how wide you made it. I think it looks really pretty mixing these two colors together for a chain. And it's really easy to drop one of your colors, so just make sure that you have both of your colors still attached all the way up. Okay, that should be plenty long enough. I did not measure mine, so you can just eyeball it. You can just make it, I'll try to make it a little extra. That way I know for sure I have enough. Okay, you're going to leave a tail. So cut your yarn and make a knot by pulling the ends through the loops. And leave a long tail because you're going to use your darning needle to weave it in. So what you're going to do is, that's the finished one. So what you're going to do is find the center. So here's where our seam was on the back. And you're just going to try to find the center of your leg warmer. You can count if you want the exact center. I'm just going to eyeball it for you now and hope that it's good, and then I can fix it later when I'm off camera. All right, so I think the center is here. All right, so what I am going to do is I'm going to insert my hook, and I'm going to go in the center red row, and I'm going to go up and down every 2 stitches, 2 double crochets. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to skip 2, and I'm going to skip 2 and come out 2. So every 2 I'm going to go in and out. And I'm doing this in the center red row. That's why we did 3 of these red rows, so we could go right down the center. Okay, going in and out. All right, and then you're just going to tie a bow here in the front. So you're going to tie a nice bow, and then you're going to place a knot right at the end of your chains. And ideally, when you were doing this, you would make your ties here at the same time, and that way you could make sure that they were exactly the right length, the same length. Whereas I have a finished one and I'm sort of just guessing. Okay, so you're going to make a bow here. And then you're going to just cut underneath your knots that you just made. Okay, and that is it. Now, again, I'm going to go and I'm going to steam this, and it's going to elongate everything. It's going to have everything have a nice shape to it. And once you put all of your ruffles on all of your rows, it will be finished. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how beautiful this looks once you steam it. So I have steamed this red and white one that I did. This is the one that I showed you in the tutorial where I added the 1 row of green here. And you could leave it like this, or you could add more ruffles. You could change the color and put red and white ruffles, or you could leave the ruffles off entirely and have it look like this. It is so cute, but look how nice and soft. Once you steam it, it just makes it so nice and flowy. So which one do you like better? The one with the green or the red and white? I think they are both gorgeous. Okay, I'm going to show you how to make a star. You're going to need a hook, a crochet hook, and some yarn. The smaller yarn and the smaller hook you use will give you a smaller star, and the larger yarn and the larger hook you use will give you a larger star. So I'm going to be using just a regular 4-waisted yarn. I just grabbed a white big twist here. So you're going to take your hook. I'm using a 4mm hook. And we are not going to start with a magic circle, but if you can and prefer the magic circle, then make a magic circle. We are just going to do the simple way for beginners. So we have our yarn. We're going to make a circle, and we're going to push the yarn through that circle and pull it through. Put your hook in the circle. We're going to chain 4. We're going to connect with the first chain with a slip stitch. So insert your hook into that very first chain that you made. Pull your tail out of the way, and you're going to loop your yarn and pull through. That's going to connect your ring. And then you're going to pull that tail right underneath your work. So it's right underneath this work right here, these stitches. Hold it right underneath those stitches, and we're going to crochet right over them. This is replacing the magic ring. And we're going to make a single crochet, and then we're going to yarn over and make a double crochet. When we do this double crochet, we're going to make sure we go right over this yarn in the back. So we're going to go into the center, pull our yarn up, and we have our tail right underneath our work. And make your double crochet. And then we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to place another double crochet in that same ring. We're working right over our tail. So at the end, we'll be able to pull this. Okay, we've done a double crochet. Now we're going to do a single crochet. So just insert your hook, grab your yarn, pull up, yarn over and pull through. So this was our first peak of our star. Now we're going to do a double crochet in that ring. We're going to chain 2. And then we're going to place another double crochet right into the same ring, still going over our tail here underneath our work. So here's our double crochet. Now we're going to do another single crochet in the circle, in the ring. Okay, that's our second point to our star. We're going to do a double crochet in the ring. Chain 2. Still have our work, our tail underneath our work. Double crochet in the ring. Single crochet in the ring. Double crochet in the ring. Chain 2. Double crochet in the ring. Single crochet in the ring. Okay, so we have 4 points. We got to do one more. So we're going to do a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet in the ring. You're going to have to pull your work a little bit, stretch it out. One more double crochet. We're still working over our yarn tail. And then we're going to end with one more last single crochet. Now we're going to just do a slip stitch. So we're going to just go into that first single crochet that we did. So pull your yarn back and we're gonna stick our yarn through that stitch of our first single crochet, grab the yarn and pull through, and then pull through that loop, that last loop. So you should have, count your points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. If you have 5 points, you're done. If you have 4, you need to do one more. So make sure you have 5. And then we're just going to pull our yarn through. We're going to cut a long tail. And if you need to sew this onto something, cut an even longer tail. If you're going to be using this as an applique, leave a long tail so you can sew it on. So you're going to cut your tail and you're going to pull your end through. And turn your work to the back, and your tail that you have been working over, you're going to gently pull that tight, and that's going to tighten up that center. So pull it tight, but not too tight where it's going to break the yarn. Okay, and that is your star. So that's a very simple, easy star that you can make. And you can just use your long tail. You're going to weave this into the back. The shorter tail that we were crocheting over, we're going to weave it in. So take your darning needle, you're going to skip over a stitch, and then you're going to just gently, on the back side only, weave. You're going to skip a stitch and go back through just on the back of your work. Skip over a stitch and go back through again. So weave it back and forth 3 times only on the back, and then tuck your yarn. And then you have this super cute star. Isn't that so cute? And you can use your long tail here to attach it. So I have this leg warmer that I made for Christmas. If you wanted to attach your star, you could attach your star anywhere on your leg warmer. And then if you made a couple stars, you could attach them to your tie for your leg warmer. If you made 2 and then just sandwiched in the end of your pull here, you could make a really cute little star for your pull. Isn't that so cute? So you can just dress these up as cute as you wanted to for Christmas. Let's move on to this checkered leg warmer. Now I'm going to show you the short version, but you can make this as long as you want. So we're going to be using red and white yarn for this. You can make this in any color. You could make green checks, blue checks. You could make a buffalo plaid. You could make green checks, anything that you wanted. And this is just regular 4-weight worsted acrylic yarn. I'm using the Big Twist red and a Big Twist white. So we're gonna start with our white yarn. We've got our 6mm hook, and we're gonna make our cuff first. So what we're going to do is just do a simple slip knot. So you make a circle around your fingers and then pull the loop through that circle. The cuff for all sizes is going to be the same, so we're going to chain 11. So make 11 chains. This is going to give us a cuff of 10 chains, which is about 2.5, 3 inches, depending on your tension or the hook that you're using. Maybe you're using a smaller hook or a larger hook, but it's going to give you a nice little cuff. This is the same for all sizes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, one more. Okay, so we have our 11 chains. And what we're going to do is make a single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So count your chains by V's. We're not going into the first V, we're going into the second V with a single crochet. And I like to insert it down here. I don't like to just grab the top. I think that looks messy. So I like to go right down in the center. So do one row of single crochets. So a single crochet in every stitch. And if you're ever confused, if there are beginners out there, you're going to look at this horizontal line down here at the bottom of your V's. So if you're confused, do I go into here? Do I go into here? Every single one of these little horizontal lines is going to get a stitch. So that might help you if you are a beginner. Okay, so we have placed one single crochet going all the way across. And if you count your V's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you should have 10 V's there. Okay, so at the end of the row, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. And we're going to be working down into these stitches. And we're going to be putting one regular single crochet in the very first stitch and the last stitch. And then all the stitches in between, we're going to be back loop only single crochets. So go right down in the middle of that first stitch with a regular single crochet. And then we're going to turn your work towards you, and you will see your V here. We're going to go right down the center through that back loop and pick up the back loop only with this single crochet. So all of these middle stitches will be back loop single crochets. The single crochet at the first and last stitch is going to make our cuff very easy to find our stitches when we turn it. That's why I do that. So just go along and put a back loop only single crochet into all of the middle stitches. Okay, and on our last one, we're going to do a regular single crochet into that last stitch. So the first stitch and the last stitch are regular single crochets, and the middles are back loop only single crochets. Okay, so we're at the end of the row. We're going to chain 1 and turn our work. And we're going to do the same thing. So just repeat this row until you get to an even number of 4. So you want an even number of 4 rows for your width. All right, so we're going to put a regular single crochet, and then we're going to do back loop only in all of these center stitches. Because that's an even number of 4. That way we won't have to increase for our gingham. So if you take your width measurement, here we are at the end of the row, and I'm going to do a regular single crochet. And I'll explain that more when I get to my rows. All right, we've chained 1 and we've turned our work. This is what it should be looking like. So at the end of the row, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. And then, as always, we're putting 1 regular single crochet in the first stitch. And then we're doing back loop only, single crochet for all of the middle stitches. And then we're going to do a regular single crochet at the end of the row. Right, here's the end of the row. I'm going to do a regular single crochet. And the reason why we do this is because it makes going into the edge of your cuff so easy. chain 1, turn your work. So you're going to be repeating this row over and over again until you get to your width, but then you're going to want to add additional rows so that the amount of rows is an even number of 4. So my rows is going to be 40. That way I have an even amount of gingham squares, because these are 4. So we want an even amount of 4. So if you do 36 rows, you want to add 4 to get to 40. It's going to be an even amount of 4. So I'm going to do 40 rows, and I think that will fit most people. So if you want to do 40 rows with me, you can. Okay, we did a regular single crochet at the end of the row. We're chaining 1, turning. So work on your own until you get to 40 rows, and then I will meet you back at the end. Okay, so I have 40 rows here, and again, we want 40 so that we can have an even amount of checks here. All right, so I have 40 rows that I have done, and we want to chain 1, and then you're going to put your ends together, and we're going to be connecting these with a slip stitch. Okay, and you're going to be inserting your hook into that very first stitch, and you're going to be going into the other end right through that stitch. Hold your tail out of the way. Okay, so you've inserted your hook through both sides of your ends, and you're going to loop over and pull through, and then through that loop, and that's a slip stitch. Do that all the way across so that you have connected your ends with a slip stitch. So just go through both ends, pull through the loop on your hook. There's our last one right there. Okay, and then you're going to want to, you have your seam here, you're going to want to turn. So your seam is on the inside of your work, like that. And then I like to just do an extra slip stitch right there at that end, that first stitch, just to gather it in there. Okay, so we're going to be working on our gingham. So you're going to want to grab whatever other color that you're going to be using for your gingham and have that ready. So this is what your cuff should look like. Okay, so to start our check, we're going to chain 2. That is our turning chain. That's not going to count. We're going to place 1 double crochet right into that same stitch. This is the first stitch of the row. We're not going to be turning on this first row. So I'm in the valley right now, so you're going to have peaks and valleys to be crocheting into. So that counted as 1. All right, so you're going to place another double crochet right here in the peak. That's going to be 2. And then your next stitch is going to go right here in the valley with a double crochet. That's 3. And then you're going to do another double crochet right here in this peak. Okay, and then we're going to pull through our new color. So whatever color check you are doing, leave a little tail to tie in and go behind it, and you're going to pull through that new color right at the end of your double crochet. And then I like to turn it over and just do a little knot with my new color onto my old color, just so it doesn't slip around. Okay, so now we have our red, and we're going to just hold your red tail out of the way, and you're going to be placing your white that we're going to carry right underneath the edge of your work. So it might take some fooling around with your fingers to feel comfortable. I like to hold the tail of that red out of the way with my hands. All right, you're going to loop over and you're going to hold your white right underneath that row that you're going into. Okay, so we're going to do 4 double crochets with our new color. So this is 1, 2, okay, that was in a valley, so our next one's going to be in a peak, so put a double crochet. This is 2. Again, we're holding this white yarn right underneath our work. Okay, we're going into a valley with the red, that's 3. And then we're doing our last peak with the red. And then before we do the ending of our double crochet, we're going to change to our white and pull our white through. So you just change colors right at the ending of your double crochet. Okay, so now we're going to hold our red right underneath our work right there. So we're going to do a double crochet with the white in the peak, in the valley. All right, so that's 1. All right, the next one's going to be in the peak with a double crochet, 2. Then we're going to do another double crochet here in the valley, that's 3. And then our next one is going to be number 4. So we're going to be doing a double crochet in the peak. Start your double crochet, but don't end it. We're going to switch to the red. So pull your red out or whatever color you're using and pull it through to finish that double crochet. Okay, and now you're going to hold your white right underneath because we're using red. So hold your white right underneath that row. We're on the red, so we're going into the valley with 1 double crochet. We're going into the next peak with number 2 double crochet. Again, we're holding the white right underneath our work. And we're going into the valley with the red. And then we're going into the peak with the red. And then we've started the double crochet, but before we finish it, we're going to pull up our white. Okay, so this is what it should be looking like so far. So every 4 stitches, you're going to change colors, but we're going to do 2 rows with the same colors. That will give us our rows here. Okay, so we're on our white now. We're going to hold the red, and the better that you hold it right behind here, it will show less. Okay, so we've got our white yarn, we're holding our red behind our work, and we're going into the valley with 1 double crochet. We're going into the top of this peak here with white, 2 double crochets. These are all going to be double crochets. We're going into the valley with a white double crochet. And here's our last one. We're going to start our double crochet in the peak, and then we're going to end it by bringing up our red yarn and pulling through to end that double crochet. And you can slow down this video in settings. So if you tap on the screen, look for that cogwheel, you can slow down the playback speed and make this video as slow as you want. And if you are an advanced crocheter and you just want to skip ahead, then you can just use the timestamps. So we have our red yarn. We're going to loop over, do our double crochet. We have our white right there behind our work. We're going to make 4 double crochets with the red. 1, 2, 3, Okay, and on their fourth one, you're going to start your double crochet, and then for that last loop, you're going to pull up your white and pull it through. And I just tighten my red a little bit, but you don't want to make it too tight, but just, it's all going to be carrying back here, okay? So you don't want to pull it too tight, but you don't want it too loose. Okay, so we have our white yarn that we've pulled up. We've got our red behind here. It's right there behind our work. You're going to have to use all of your fingers for this one. Okay, so we have our white, and we're going to make 4 double crochets with our white color. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to start our number 4. We're going to make 1 loop, but before we pull through that last loop, we're going to pull up our red yarn and pull through our red yarn. Just tighten it up a little bit. Okay, so that's what it looks like. So you're just going to continue that all the way around. Okay, we're going to do 4 with the red. 1, 2, 3. We're going to start number 4, but on the last part of that double crochet, we're going to pull up our white, drop our red, and pull through the white. And just tighten that red. Okay, let's do our 4 white. So we're going to go in with double crochets 1. And if your other color gets loose, just pull it. 2, whoops, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so before we, whoops, I went too far. So before you finish off, you're going to switch your color and pull through your red. Tighten up your white. Okay, so here is our last group of 4. This is why we wanted an even amount of 4, so we didn't end up on 2 white sections together. So we have our red yarn, and we're carrying our white behind our work here. So we're going to loop over and do our last 4 double crochets in red. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, here's our last one. So we're going to start it, and then we're going to pull our white yarn up and finish it off with the white yarn. And just tighten up your red yarn. Okay, so if we did not have an even amount of 4, we might have ended with 2 reds together. That's why we want 40. Okay, so we're going to slip stitch our white yarn to connect to our rows right here. And we're not turning at all. We're not going to turn. That'll make it too complicated. We're just going to be working on the good side, this whole thing. Okay, and we're not going to do any increases because we've gone up a size with the 4 to make it a little bigger. So usually I would make a 36 rows, but I went up to an even amount of 4. That way I won't have to increase. Okay, so we have our white yarn. We're going to do 1 more row of the same colorway. Okay, so we're going to continue with our white. So we're going to be doing, I've got my white here. We're going to be doing 4 double crochets with the white, and we're still going to carry our red. Okay, so we're going to do our next row. So we're going to need to go up to get our height. So we're going to chain 2. That does not count as a stitch. That's just getting us up to the height we need. And now we're making our first white here. Again, we have our red right behind our work, right behind that row. So we're going to place 1 double crochet. That's stitch number 1, and then 2 double crochet. All right, number 3, we're going right over our red yarn here, 3. All right, and this is our number 4. So we're going to start our double crochet with our white, and then we're going to change to our red. We're going to pull through our red and just tighten up the white. All right, so we have our red yarn, and we're going to place our double crochets right over our red row. So that's 1, 2, 3. Okay, and here's number 4. So we're going to start with the red, and then to finish that double crochet off, we're going to pull up our white, drop our red, and pull through the white right at the end. Okay, so we're going to make a row of the same colors over one another. Okay, so let's keep going. We've got our white now. We're going to place our next 4 double crochets in white. We're carrying that red right behind these stitches. Okay, this is number 4. So we've started our white, and we're going to drop our white, pull up our red. We're going to tighten our white just a little bit and pull through our red, and just pull and tighten your white a little bit at the end there. Okay, so now we have our red. We're going to do 4 red double crochets. Oops, I finished it. Okay, so on the last part of that, number 4, you're going to drop your red and pick up your white yarn and pull your white yarn through, and just pull your red tail a little bit to tighten that up. All right, let's keep going. Okay, we have our white yarn. We're carrying our red. So we're going to place 4 double crochets with the white, and we've got our red yarn right behind there. Oops, went too far down. Okay, that's number 3, and then number 4, we're going to start number 4 with the white, and then we're going to end by dropping our white and pulling up our red and pulling our red through, tightening up. Okay, so now we have our red. We're going to do 4 reds, double crochets. That's 1, 2, 3, and this is our number 4, so we're going to start, and then on the ending we're going to pull up our white and pull our white through. Okay, so we have our white yarn. Pull that red if you need to tighten it up, and then we're going to do 4 double crochets with the white yarn, carrying that red right behind our work. And you just pull it with your fingers underneath. Sometimes I can do a better job than others. I'm just in an awkward position here for this tutorial. Okay, so keep going. All right, here's our number 4. So we're going to start our double crochet with the white, and then to end it, we're going to pull up our red, finish it off with the red, and then you're going to do 4 double crochets with the red. Okay, here's the last one here. So we're going to start our double crochet with the red, and then we're going to switch to the white and pull our white through. Then we've got white, so we're going to be carrying our red behind our work. So we're going to do 4 double crochets with the white. Okay, here's our last one with the white. So we're going to start it with the white, and then we're going to change, pull up our red, just like that. Okay, now here's our last group of checks. So we've got our red yarn. So we're going to do 4 double crochets with the red. And then we're not going to change to white. We're going to slip stitch right into that white. So look for, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets here in our turning chain. We're not going into the turning chain. We're going into the top of the red. And you can put your white yarn right behind there when you go in there. When I missed it, let me try again. So insert your hook, make sure your white yarn is behind there. Okay, so your white is behind there, but you're not going to be using it. I just twist it around so it carries up. Now we have our red yarn. This is what it looks like. So I brought that white yarn up, just twist it around in the back. Okay, so we're going to do 4, we're going to chain 2 to get to our height that we need to make our next group. We've got our red yarn, we're carrying our white behind, and we're going to do 4 double crochets with the red right over the white. So again, we're carrying, so that's number 1. That turning chain did not count, and we're not turning. It's just getting us up to the height. We have our white behind our white yarn. We have our red yarn. This is number 3. And then, oh wait, that was number 2. So the turning chain did not count. We have our first red, our second red, and then here's our 3rd double crochet in red. So on our last double crochet, we're going to start it with the red, and then we're going to pull up our white and end it with the white. Okay, so we've done 2 rows of red, and now we're going to do 2 rows of the other color right on top of these colors. And again, the better that you can put your yarn behind your work, it will come out looking nicer and not have that red there. Okay, so we're going to continue. So we have our white. So we're going to be carrying our red. So we're going to make 4 double crochets with the white. Tighten up that red yarn if you need to. So we're going to make 4 double crochets with the white. And then at the end of that number 4, we're going to pull up our red and pull in our red. Okay. So this is what it should be looking like. Okay, so we're going to make 4 red double crochets over the white double crochets. One, 2, 3, 4, and we're carrying our white yarn behind there. We're going to pull up our white on the 4th one and finish off that double crochet with the white yarn. And now we're going to place 4 double crochets in the white and carry our red yarn behind our work. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, number 4 is right here. So again, try to carry it behind your work. Number 4, we're going to start with the white, and we're going to drop our white and pull up our red. Pull our red through, tighten up our white. Now we're going to do 4 red double crochets over the white double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we started with the red and we're going to switch to the white. So we just drop our red yarn and grab our white yarn and pull it through the last of that double crochet. Now we've got our white yarn, we're carrying our red yarn. So we're going to make 4 double crochets with the white right over the red. All right, here's our last double crochet. We're going to drop our white and pull up our red, pull our red through. So we're going to make 4 red double crochets over our white double crochets. Okay, so number 1, and we're carrying our white yarn behind. It's right there behind our work. 2, 3, 4. You're going to drop your red and pull up your white and pull through your white and just tighten your red. Now we're going to be making 4 white double crochets over the red double crochets. Here's 1, 2, 3. Here's number 4. We're going to start it with the white and we're going to finish it with the red. So drop your white and pull up your red, pull through with your red. Okay, we're going to be carrying our white and making 4 double crochets with our red. So 1, 2, 3. Here's our last one, number 4. All right, so we're starting it in red and then we're dropping the red and pulling up the white. Tighten up your red. Now we're making 4 double crochets with the white and we have our red carrying behind our work. So place 4 double crochets in white. 1, 2, 3. We're going to make our double crochet with the white and we're going to finish off with the red. Okay, we're at the end of the row. We're going to slip stitch here. We're not going to go into our chain 2. We're going to go into the first double crochet with the red. We're going to slip stitch. I like to twist my other yarn around it so it carries. So you just twist your other color around and that'll carry it up. This is what it should look like. Okay, so now we're going to do one other row that is the same as this last row because we're matching colors. Okay, so we're going to carry our white and we're using our red yarn. Okay, so we have our red yarn. We're going to chain 2, that does not count. We're going to place 1 more double crochet right in that same stitch. That's our first stitch. We're carrying our white behind our work. We're going to place 4 more double crochets here. So we have our turning chain is not counting. And then we're placing a red double crochet right over this red double crochet row. We're carrying our white behind our work. Okay, we're going to start our double crochet and then to end it, we're going to pull up our white. So here's our next group of checks here. So we have our white yarn now, we're carrying our red. We're going to make 4 double crochets with the white right over the white double crochets. We're carrying the red right behind our work. Okay, here's our last number 4 here for this group. We're going in with the white for a double crochet, and then to end it, we're going to pull up our red and pull our red through. And now we're carrying our white right behind our work here. We've got our red. We're going to place our 4 double crochets with red over the 4 double crochets from the previous row. And you can tighten your yarn to start a new little section here. Just tighten your carry yarn. We've got our red, we've got our white behind, and we're doing our red double crochets. Here's number 3, I think. Okay, and number 4, we're going to start number 4, and then to end it, we're going to drop our red and pull up our white. This is what it should be looking like. We're going to be placing 4 double crochets over our 4 white double crochets. We're carrying our red behind our work. So here's number 1, 2, and the better you can hide it back there, the better it'll look. 3, number 4, so we're starting our number 4 double crochet with white, and then we are going to drop our white and pull up our red through. Tighten your white yarn, and now we're doing 4 double crochets with the red. So 1, we're carrying our white behind our work, number 2, number 3, and then we have number 4, so we're going in with the red with a double crochet. We're starting it, and then to finish it off, we're pulling up our white, pulling it through. Now we're going to be using our white yarn. We're carrying our red behind our work here. We've got our white yarn, and we're going to do 4 double crochets with the white. We're carrying our red behind our work. Okay, our last one is here, and we are going to drop our white and pull up our red, and you can just tighten your white yarn. Okay, so we have our red yarn that we're working with, and we are going to be making our double crochets in red. So you're going to place 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets with the red. We're carrying the white. We're going to start the red one, and then we're going to drop our red and pick up our white yarn and pull it through. Okay, now we're doing another row, another section of white. So we're going to do 4 white crochets carrying our red. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and number 4, we're going to start with our white, and then we're going to drop our white and pull up our red. Okay, now we're going to make 4 double crochets with our red, and we're going to carry our white. So 1, 2, 3, and here's our last one. So we're going to go in with the red, and we're going to finish with the white. So we're going to drop our red, and we're going to pull in our white yarn. And now we have our white yarn, and we're carrying our red yarn. Pull your red yarn if you need to tighten it up. We're going to place our 4 double crochets with white right over our previous row of 4 double crochets with white. Okay, here's our last one of the row. Okay, so we're going to start our white double crochet, and then we're not going to change our yarn because we're going to finish it with the white, because we are going to be going up here with the red. So we're going to slip stitch. We are going to connect with our white yarn here, right here. We're going to insert in the top of the first double crochet, not the turning chain. Okay, and we're going to pull up our white, but I like to twist my red around just to carry it up. So just twist your yarn in the back and pull your white through, and now you have your red up there also. This is what it should look like. Okay, so what you're going to do is just continue this pattern for as long as you want your leg warmers. So for this one, I did 4 groups or 8 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but 4 rows of the check. And each row has 1, 2, 3, 4 red, 4 white. Then you're doing 4 white and 4 red right over it. Then you're changing and doing 4 white, 4 red, and then you're keeping and you're going 4 red, 4 white over. So continue. You can make this as long as you want. Continue doing your rows, and I will meet you when I am done the 8 rows. Okay, so to finish off, we are going to end. I'm ending with the white last double crochet here. We're going to complete the whole double crochet, and then we are going to go into the first double crochet from the row, not the turning chain, but the first double crochet, and pull through. So we are done with our red, and I have cut that off. And you can just put a little knot back there. And I am just going to weave in just a little bit so it's not in my way. Okay, so we have finished with the red. We have our white. This is what it should be looking like. Okay, so all the way around we have our gingham or our check, and this is the seam right here. It's nice and straight. What we are going to do is we're going to be working on our ruffles, and you can make this leg warmer as long as you want. So if you wanted this longer, you just continue with your check rows. Okay, so once we have made our connection here for this row, we have tied off our red yarn that we're stopping with. We're going to do a row of single crochets going across this whole row. So just chain one and then place one single crochet into every stitch, going all the way around your leg warmer. This is going to give us a nice border that we can put our next stitches into. So just one single crochet going all the way around, and I will meet you at the end. And then we're just going to slip stitch into the very first single crochet that we did. Okay, so we have this nice border around our leg warmer of single crochets. And now we're going to start on our ruffle. If you want a fuller ruffle, you can do what I did. I chained 3, and I'm going to place 3 more double crochets in that same stitch. So we have one chain 3, which counts as our first double crochet. And then we have 3 additional double crochets all in that same single crochet stitch. Okay, if you want a less ruffle, you can do 2 or 3 depending on your preference. But I'm going to be placing 4 double crochets now in each stitch. That's going to give us this nice full lacy ruffle like this. Again, if you want a less ruffle, you can just adjust your double crochets. So I'm going to now place 4 double crochets into every single crochet stitch. So that was 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'll do another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, all in the same stitch. And this is going to start waving like this, and that is fine. So continue placing 4 double crochets in each single crochet, and I will meet you at the end of the row. Okay, here's my last one. And what I like to do, here's a little tip. When you have a end here that might get caught when you're doing this one, just fold it. So I fold it down with my hands, with my fingers, so that way I'm not going to catch it, because it can be really tight there. Okay, so I'm placing my last group of 4 double crochets. And then we're going to slip stitch. We're going to slip stitch right in the top of the, or actually the first chain 3, because we did a chain 3. That's not a turning chain. So 1, 2, 3, here's our first one. This is the first double crochet that we did, but this is the top of the chain 3. So slip stitch right in that third chain, 1, 2, 3. And pull through with a slip stitch to join. Okay, and now we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. Okay, we're going to be working on the wrong side of our work, and we're going to be placing 1 double crochet into each stitch. So we're going to place 1 double crochet back into that same stitch of our turning chain. Our turning chain does not count. So that's our first double crochet. Now place 1 double crochet into each stitch. Okay, so continue placing 1 double crochet into every stitch of the row, and I will meet you at the end. This is what it should look like. Okay, that was my last stitch, and now I'm going to slip stitch into the very first double crochet. We're not counting the turning chain, so go into that very first double crochet with your hook and pull through your yarn. And then we're going to chain 4, and we're going to turn our work. That chain 4 counts as a single crochet chain 3. Okay, so now we're working on the front side of our leg warmer, and we're going to skip a stitch, and we're going to go into the following stitch with a single crochet. And we're going to chain 3. We're going to skip a stitch and go into the following stitch with a single crochet, chain 3, skip 1 stitch, go into the following stitch with a single crochet. This is how it should look. Okay, so just keep continuing that all around. So we're chaining 3, skipping 1 stitch and going into the following stitch with a single crochet. Continue that all around the row, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, I am at the end of the row, so I'm going to do my final chain 3, and we're going to slip stitch to that first chain of our chain 4 and pull through. So we're going to join with a slip stitch, and then you're just going to chain 1 and pull your yarn through, cut your yarn. Now you're going to weave in your ends, so attach your yarn to your darning needle, and on the inside of your work, so turn your work to the inside, and you're just going to weave in your ends. I like to go back 3 times, so just skip a stitch and go in back and forth 3 times somewhere where it's not going to show. And you're going to have your top end here, cut your ends. Okay, so if we turn our work inside out, this is what it's going to look like. So you're just going to want to weave in all of those ends from the inside. So get your darning needle and just go and weave in all of those ends. If you didn't knot your red yarn when you first started, make sure you do that so it doesn't come undone. So just grab your yarn and weave in your ends. Down here, this is where we ended. Again, if you didn't knot it, make sure you give it a knot, put a knot there. You can always turn your darning needle to the end and just push the end of your darning needle in. Grab your ends, pull them through. Okay, so you don't have to always go in this way, you can go in this way. Okay, so find all of your ends and weave all of your ends in. So this is the back side or the wrong side of our work here. This is our seam that we had, nice and neat. Okay, so you're going to flip it the right way. So you can grab whatever color yarn that you would like, and you're going to want to put your seam in the center of your leg warmer. Grab your yarn that you want, your color of your tie, whatever color you want. We're going to keep our number 6 hook. You could go down a hook size if you wanted a tighter chain. It's all up to you. So we're going to again make a slip knot, make a circle, push that yarn through that circle, put your hook on your yarn. Okay, we're going to make a chain long enough to go all the way around our leg warmer and tie a bow. So keep making your chains until it is long enough to go all the way around your leg warmer and make a nice bow. So continue making your chains, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, so we have our long chain here, and we're just going to cut our yarn, and we're just going to pull the end through the loop so we knot our chain. So we have our long chain, and we're going to get our darning needle, and we're going to lace our tie through here. Okay, so you're just going to try to find the center, and then you can really go in anywhere that you want I am going to go in the middle of the cuff, but if you wanted to go above here, you could, or up here, you could make several bows on here. So I'm gonna go up here. I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up, and I think this is around the center. So I'm going to go in, I'm gonna skip, and I'm gonna come out. Skip and go in, skip and go out. So I'm sort of skipping a ridge and go a little bit and then pull it gently. And there's no right or wrong way. So you just go in and weave in your tie whichever way that you like. Okay, so I'm going to come out right here. And now you're gently going to pull to even out your tie here. Okay, so once you get that pretty even and stretched out so it's not pulling, you're going to want to make a bow. You can make your bow as big or as little as you want it to be. And then what we're going to do is just put a knot down here. So just find a spot and make a knot, and then try to make a knot in the same space on the other side. And you can just sort of leave them loose until you get them even, and then pull them tight so they're even. And then cut off your extra. And we are done. Now I'm going to take this in and I'm going to steam it, and that's going to soften everything up. But isn't this so cute? I just think they are so adorable. And if you wanted a longer ruffle, you could just add more double crochets. And if you wanted a longer leg warmer, you could have just made more rows. So this is any size. So I'm going to go steam this, and then I will show you what it looks like when it is steamed. I'm gently steaming the ruffle and the leg warmer. It's going to loosen up that yarn and make it nice and soft. And this is optional. Okay, see how nice and soft that makes that ruffle? Nice and soft. So cute. Okay, so I just steamed this leg warmer. So our ruffle is all nice and soft. So nice and soft. And again, you could, if you want more ruffle, if you wanted this to be a longer ruffle, you just keep going with the second row of double crochets. But this is so gorgeous. And it's nice and soft. We have steamed it. And this is how the back looks. This is how the front looks. And this is the one that I made with the sparkle yarn. So you could use sparkle yarn if you wanted to. Hope you have liked this tutorial. And we have our other long leg warmers that we made with the green ruffle, and then this is what it looks like if you just left it without the green ruffles, maybe just a couple ruffles on the top. Looks so pretty, and our bottom.